Today's episode holds a tender and sacred space as we share a story that includes the loss of an infant. We want to offer a gentle content warning for those who may be carrying similar grief. This conversation is shared with love, and we hope it brings comfort, connection, and hope to anyone that may need it. Welcome to Angels Among Us, the podcast where we share real stories of angelic encounters. Each episode, you'll hear firsthand accounts of divine protection, guidance, and miraculous interventions that remind us we're never truly alone. Whether through a whisper of comfort, an unseen hand of protection, or an unmistakable presence, angels are closer than we think. Join us as we explore these powerful experiences of angels, both seen and unseen. Hello, and welcome to Angels Among Us. If you've listened in order, this will be our fourth episode. And we're so excited to have some dear friends of ours with us, Samson and Ali. We met them kind of in an unconventional way, I guess. We met them in the NICU with our son Tegan. We met them the same day we met Teague.
Mm-hmm. And if you're following us, you had just gotten done with our story with Teague, so
yep,
these guys are special to us.
And if you're just fans of Samson and Ali and you're only listening to their story, how dare you go back and listen to us, okay? So you can get to know us as well and listen to every story after this. Deal?
Deal on our end.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys know a lot more people than us, so you gotta hold them to it.
Samson does, Brent. Samson knows more people.
Yeah, I run into Samson's family almost every day.
Yeah.
Well, I at least drive by their houses.
Yeah. Well, every third person in Tri-Cities is a Martinez, so it's pretty easy to do.
Samson and Ali have an incredible story, and they're going to share with us, and hopefully you'll be able to get something out of it, and it'll help you to be able to strengthen your relationship with Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. And I'm really excited. We've heard most of it, I think, all bits and pieces, but never in one setting like this. So we are really excited. So Samson and Ali, it's all you.
Yeah. I mean, we just love talking about, what God has done in our life and how we've been able to just navigate what feels like years and years of marriage just because of everything we've experienced in such a short time. But we'll kind of start with our journey, I guess, as far as when we got married, we had talked about always wanting to have a family, always wanting to have kids. And it was just going to be a really prominent part of our journey. And obviously we went through that period a lot of people go through where you get married, you want to spend some time to yourself, and you just imagine that there's going to be nothing to it. When the time comes, when God's ready, when you're ready, you're just going to have your family, after a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is for you. And that was kind of how we started. And yeah, you want to kind of expand a little bit on that journey?
Yeah, we thought it would be as easy.
Share with us really quick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go.
Can you just share how you met really quick?
Yeah.
We met at Whitworth at college in Spokane.
Love at first sight.
For him.
Absolutely. I remember it was fourth or fifth.
It took us 3.5 years before we started dating. So we were friends for a long time. I actually went through a couple other boyfriends, had to get him out of my system before I finally dated him. But yeah, we eventually got there and met at Whitworth and got married a 1.5 years later.
Just to be clear, I was all in. I met her, was like, I'm marrying this woman. I don't care what it takes. So kind of a Nicholas Sparks situation for sure. But yeah, for me, the day I met Ali, I literally felt something just came over me where I was going to do everything I could to make sure she lived her best life possible. I was hoping that meant forever with her. And it didn't seem like that was going to be the case for a few years. So I had to get a little strategic. I had to kind of cut her out of my life a little bit to make her jealous for her to finally get back to me. And it all worked out great. So
yeah, how come they're the ones always playing the games, and then the second we start playing games, it's like Nope.
I don't know, man.
Hey, this isn't gang up on Michaela and Ali time.
Oh, sorry.
No, I clearly had some growing up to do, and I think it was a good time for me to figure out who I was. And Allie definitely allowed me to kind of learn how to mature a little bit and what she was looking for in a husband and all that. So it was at the end of the day, I wouldn't do it any differently. I love that we were best friends before we got together. I feel like I knew everything about her before we dated, which is really rare. And it kind of just developed this best friend relationship that turned into us becoming husband and wife at some point. And just to marry a best friend, like your true best friend, is a really fun adventure. We've had a blast with it.
What does that make me, Samson?
You're a really good friend, Brent. You're top 10 for sure.
Yeah, that's basically how we met.
Yeah.
Story.
Okay, well, go ahead and continue on with starting a family since I rudely interrupted.
No, it's okay. So about a year into marriage, we're like, okay, now we're ready. Let's do this. And I just remember every month negative pregnancy tests over and over and over again. And it was 15 months of trying where we finally got our first positive pregnancy test. And I remember we were obviously so excited, but there's also is this real? Like, is this actually going to work? Like, we've waited so long. And fortunately, things looked great. We had 2 first appointments. They looked awesome. Heard the baby's heartbeat, all that kind of regular stuff that you would go through. And for some reason, we still don't wonder why, but wonder, I guess we do, why it didn't work. At 14 weeks, we miscarried. And that is definitely something I would talk about. It's extremely traumatic, especially after hearing the heartbeat and knowing like the baby's in there, the baby's real, like this is happening. To then have it all come crashing down within 30 minutes, like everything changed. But we both grew up with the like kind of suck it up and deal with it. It's done. It happened. Like, let's move forward. And so again, we started trying. And 2 years later, we ended up getting pregnant again. So it was very difficult because our friends that are the same age as us were popping out babies like it was nothing, and we never blamed them. We never had ill feelings towards them, nothing like that. And at the same time, it's also really difficult when like you want something so bad and you get all these cute little babies running around, but none of them are yours. And so for another 2 years, we just kept trying, ended up doing some fertility treatment to help us get pregnant. There were some things they discovered about my reproductive system that weren't working correctly. And we ended up getting pregnant with our first son. And same thing, ultrasounds looked great. Things were going well until we hit 12 weeks. And then we got a not great ultrasound. He had many things that just progressed that were not developing correctly with his body. And at 20 weeks, they had told us, hey, we think you should terminate this pregnancy. Like, there's no way he's going to survive. And in order to keep, you healthy and be able to get pregnant again faster, we think you should end the pregnancy. And that's just something Samson and I don't believe in. We weren't raised believing that, but we also don't believe that is something that Jesus would ever want us to do. We believed that whether our son lived or died, he was a child of God, and we needed to give him a shot because we believe that miracles can happen. And so I carried him until 30 weeks, and he was born. And the doctor had said, hey, like, he's going to be born stillborn. He's not going to survive as soon as he comes out of your womb. Like, it's just not gonna work. And we had come to the realization that was going to happen. You can never fully prepare for that, but we, quote unquote, prepared as best as we could. And I still get chills thinking about it, but he actually lived for 2 hours. And the doctor looked at us and he goes, I don't know what your faith's about, but this is a miracle. The fact that he's breathing, and he came out and his heart was pumping, but he hadn't actually breathed yet. And he ended up breathing. Like, we got to see him breathe. And so this doctor who had told us to have an abortion looked at us at 30 weeks and was like, your son's a miracle. Like, this is an absolute miracle. And, the way we grieved, the way we processed the death of him was very different between the two of us. And this sounds extreme. I think you would agree with me. The fact that people can stay married after losing a child is a miracle in and of itself, because it is, if not the worst thing, one of the worst things a parent can go through. And we really attribute our marriage to where it is now to the Lord and how he stayed with us through that. Because I had some very difficult times with my faith after SJ died, some very, very difficult times. And then after we had to wait a year until we could get pregnant again. The birth didn't really go as planned, so my body really had to recover. So they asked us to wait a year before we could try again. He was born in 2020, and then we ended up going almost another 3 years before our second son was born. So again, that same thing, negative pregnancy tests. Hey, your body just can't carry a pregnancy. We had miscarried 8 times in between our 2 boys. And so it got to a point where Samson actually looked at me. He's like, do you even want to try anymore? Like, are we done, or are we still trying? And we were 29 at that point. So we're like, no, we'll keep trying. We'll see our options. We'll see doctors, see what they can do. And then we ended up getting pregnant with our son in February of 2023. And this pregnancy was different because every ultrasound, you now have milestones of like, okay, our first son's bad ultrasound was at 12 weeks. So let's just get past the 12-week ultrasound. And then, oh, he was born at 30. So let's get past the 30-week. Like, you have these markers of where you want to get to. And so we finally, got past the big ones. His 20-week ultrasound came back great. Anatomy scan looked amazing. And then all of a sudden at 24 weeks, I went into labor and ended up giving birth to Jameson. He's our second son, and he weighed 1.5 pounds at birth. And I think we were in the NICU like a week and a half before you guys came, or did you guys come the same day he was born?
I think it was a week later.
I think it was a week later, right?
Week and a half, yeah.
Yeah, so
they're 10 days apart.
yeah.
The NICU
Yeah.
feels like one big day.
Man, it does. And so I'll kind of let you tell Jameson's story.
Yeah,
a bit.
I guess kind of through that whole process. So with Jameson specifically, I'll never forget being at work. Everything's going well. You kind of let your guard down a little bit. Obviously you have all this PTSD built up, and you're like, man, things are just going really well. This is fun to celebrate a good pregnancy. And then I remember just having this feeling. Ali called me, and I could hear her right away. I was in full emergency mode. I said, what happened? I'm on my way home.
All I told him, I said, I'm bleeding. That's all I could get out.
Yeah.
I'm bleeding.
This is kind of part of our miracle story, as far as, we have a lot of these experiences as far as where God has intervened and angels kind of have been there to protect us and stuff like that. But this was one of them where I get the call from Ali. It normally takes me about 11 or 12 minutes to get home from work. I was going, I don't even know how fast. And as cheesy and cliche as it sounds, everyone was getting out of my way. I turned my hazards on. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do when you're going fast, but I turned my hazards on just to try to draw attention. And the freeway literally split open, creating a lane for me. And I flew home and got to my house in 5 minutes. Got Ali, put her in the car. Normally takes us about 15 to 20 minutes, especially with traffic, to get to the Catholic hospital. Same thing. We hit every green light on every busy road in Pasco and Richland. People got out of our way. We got to Catholic in less than 7 minutes. had the ER doctor
Wow.
waiting for us. I didn't even have time to like park the car. By the time they got Ali and I like tried to like put the car somewhere and came back, they were already getting her ready in a room. And then doctor came in and it was time to go to the OR. So that whole process of what happened, had we been 10 minutes later, Jameson probably wouldn't be with us today. And just, it's almost like these drivers in these cars knew something was going on and helped. We had so many people helping, and and I don't know how else to explain that other than just divine intervention. It was just everything happened perfectly in response to what was going on for us to get to where we needed to get and to give Jameson a fighting chance.
Yeah,
And
Allie,
I called you at 4:07 and Jameson was born at 4:57. So within 50 minutes, he had left from
wow.
work, picked me up, gone to the hospital, and he was born.
Do you remember, Allie, do you remember like him getting there and driving and everything to the hospital? Do you?
So Samson, I remember this is another miracle. People might laugh at this one, but it's what saved Jameson. I was a teacher at the time, so it was summer. So I was sitting on the couch watching TV and I had this huge jug of water and it actually spilled. And I got so mad at myself, it was all over my pants. So I went to my bedroom to change pants, and that's when I noticed I had started bleeding. So if that water bottle hadn't have spilled, I would not notice because I was not cramping. Like I had no idea I was in labor. And so we always talk about what a miracle it was that the water bottle spilled because I wouldn't have noticed. But I remember calling him and I remember him saying, I need to call the hospital. You need to call your mom and stay on the phone with your mom until I get there. So I remember calling my mom, being on the phone with her, standing outside. I had gone outside already. I remember him picking me up. And as soon as I got into the car, when you're with your husband or wife, you feel safe. And I remember getting into the car and that's when I just, I don't remember anything. I was like, I'm with Samson. Like, he's going to take care of me. I'm good. And so I remember as soon as I got in the car, I just like, I didn't black out actually, but like, that's kind of what it felt like. Like, I don't remember getting to
Yeah.
the hospital. I don't remember anything about like triage, them checking me in. I remember laying on the bed when the doctor came and checked me and was like, hey, this baby's come, like, we gotta go. I remember that part. I don't remember any of his birth. The only thing that I remember from his birth is once he was born, we didn't know that Jameson was a boy. We had kept the gender a surprise. So when he was born, I remember looking at Samson and saying, is it a boy or a girl? And he asked the doctor, and the doctor's like, you have a son. And I remember looking at Samson and I was like, we're going to lose another boy. Like, we're going to lose our second kid. And I remember just being like, I had a C-section. So I'm on the table, can't move, just like these doctors have my 1 pound baby in their hands. And I'm like, we're going to lose another son. Like, we're going to be those parents that just keep losing kids, and I remember the whole NICU team was in there. I don't remember that part, but they were in there. And I remember them saying, heart rate's at 60, heart rate's at 50. And then the respiratory therapist was like, I can't get him intubated. So I'm laying there listening to this and they're like, heart rate's at 40. Like, guys, he's dropping. And Samson stayed right by me. And I remember the NICU doctor, Dr. Mara, came in. And all of a sudden there was clapping. And I looked at Samson, I'm like, why are they clapping? And Dr. Mara goes, we got him intubated, heart rate's going up, we're taking him to the NICU. And Samson looked at me and he goes, do you need me to be a father or a husband? Like, what's my role right now? And I was like, I need you to go with him. And those are the only little snippets, because there was a lot more that went on, but those are the only snippets that I remember. And then Samson left and thank the Lord, our anesthesiologist was awesome. He stayed with me the whole time until the nurses came back and brought me. So I wasn't alone. But the fact that Dr. Mara, he was on call, he was at his house, which was 10 minutes away. And so they called him when they knew I was in labor. He made it to the hospital, got into the OR. And if he hadn't have been there, Jameson would be dead because no one could get him intubated. 3 people tried before Dr. Mara actually got him intubated. And so, you asked us about like what type of miracles have we experienced. That whole birth story, I mean, not just the birth story, his life after, but specifically that birth story, the fact that he's here, all the little pieces and people that were there, we firmly believe like Jesus placed them in that OR for Jameson for that reason, because they were equipped to do what they did, and it was an unbelievable birth that it worked out.
I remember, Samson, I think this was the situation, but you had said that when it could have been something different, but when you guys got to the hospital, like they wanted to like put Ali in the waiting room or something. Was that something different? Or was that, like, explain that.
I apologize to every Catholic employee that I had an interaction with, and
You got pretty mad.
I was in full like this is happening mode.
Yeah.
It takes a lot for me to like get to that point. I meant business. I got in, I told everyone what was going on, what was happening right now.
They made me go to the bathroom.
And they they asked her to do a pee sample, and I'm like, she is bleeding.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, I'm like, okay, we have to comply before security comes because I'm making a scene here. And sure enough, she starts bleeding. So I just start running down the hall. I'm pulling on those strings that bring in the emergency team. I said, we're doing this right now. Like, I'm not waiting anymore. And then luckily that's when one of the doctors came rushing over to us and goes, he's absolutely right. We checked her records. It has to be in an operating room right now. She was amazing once they finally kind of figured out what was going on. But yeah, and it was nothing that anyone did wrong. Obviously, everyone's doing exactly what they're supposed to do in their job. I was just very flustered in that moment. But
Well, you did exactly what you were supposed to do.
my job was to protect my family at the end of the day.
Yep.
And I was just so focused on that. And I had this realization, we get to the OR. And I told God, we had this moment where Ali was losing a lot of blood, and I was worried about her. And because of our situation and what we've been through in the past, I kind of had it in my head, like, our son's gone. Or I didn't know it was a son, but our child's gone. And I'm thinking to myself, like here I am trying to make sure Ali's gonna make it. And I'm also in my head, like, already thinking, like, God, we have to do another funeral. And it was a really hard moment where I'm looking to my right and my son's heart rate is dropping. And I'm looking to my left and my wife, they're trying to keep her conscious. And I'm just like, my whole world is literally falling right now. And I remember in that moment, just closed my eyes. And I had this crazy just rush of just God's faithfulness come over me in that moment. And I said, God, I'm asking you to save my family. But even if you don't, I'm going to trust you. And I've been so frustrated that I feel like that's been our prayer for so long, is like, even if you don't. I hear so many people say, like, we got our miracle. And for us, it was like, well, we haven't, but even if we don't, and it was getting really frustrated in that moment that we're having this moment again. But that's when I closed my eyes and I was praying, and all of a sudden I hear the clapping like Ali did. And I look over at her and she's gaining consciousness again and getting a little bit of color. And then I had this crazy moment where I'm just like, they're taking my son away and they're taking my wife away. I'm like, what do I do? And that's when I told Ali, I said, do you need me to be a husband or a father right now? She says, I need you to be a father. I said, okay, I'm going to go be a father, but I will have a wife when I get back.
Yeah, he told me, he goes, you better be in that room when I come back.
This is not goodbye. Like, it can't be,
You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And we had some people come to aid us and assist us right away and help relieve me so that I can jump back and forth with Ali. And
We should tell that story because that's a miracle and how that worked.
go for it.
So I had a Bible study in our church, and our leader is one of the pastor's wives. Her name is Kaylee. She wouldn't mind me sharing that. And when we went into labor and they took Jameson, they said that we could call one other person to be with the baby if Samson was with me or vice versa. And I immediately looked at him and I was like, I need Kaylee here. Like she has been and still is one of the biggest prayer warriors in our life. And, she came and was with us and was with Jameson praying over him. But I learned after that she was at her house, her kids were with her. And for some reason, she was prompted to pray for us at her house. Just right, like we hadn't told her anything was going on. She just said, like, I felt the Holy Spirit be like, I need to pray for Ali and the baby. And then she was telling me, she just like felt like she needed to like put her shoes on, that I needed to see her. So when she was telling me this, she was already in the process of like getting ready to leave and call me to see how I was, not knowing that we were in the hospital with Jameson. And so it's so cool to hear that afterwards and be like, man, I knew I needed you there, but God knew that you needed to be there for us in that situation. And she continues to be someone who prays for us through now, like other fertility things and other pregnancies after Jameson. She continues to be there, but that was, God working through her 100% and how she showed up. I mean, she was there with Jameson for hours.
And a lot of things fell into place because in that moment, I don't have any memory of from the OR to the NICU. Like, I don't even remember seeing him get intubated. I don't remember the process. I just remember I just blanked out until Kaylee got there. And also in that moment, recognizing they wouldn't let anyone back there unless they were clergy. And we didn't even know that. We had just called Kaylee and she's clergy. So it just
it just all
everything fell into place for her to come and kind of be our guardian angel and take care of Jameson so I can check on Ali. And we were going back and forth. And so that was kind of our breakthrough in terms of okay, God, this is where we start, and we've kind of had the burden and the blessing of experiencing the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in such a short time, where we've prayed for the miracle and received it, and we've prayed the miracle and not received what we wanted, and have had to learn, or we're still learning the why. I don't think we're ever going to figure out the why, but have had to learn how to process, and I go back to, it's so easy for us to see people's miracles and to think where's mine? I'm waiting for mine. And what we always forget, when we go back into history and hear about all these miracles that were performed and all these things that happen, these people still went through things waiting for that miracle. We know what happened after the fact. But they didn't get what they want leading up to it. And we think about that all the time with our story. It's people are like, wow, Jameson's such a blessing. I'm so glad we prayed hard. And it's this wasn't the way we asked for it though. But God has intervened in incredible ways and brought people into our life that otherwise wouldn't be in our life. Brought you guys into our life.
Yeah.
That you guys have been such a testament to that. And we wouldn't have it any other way. We want it other ways, but if we had to rewrite this story all over again, everything has just fallen into place in a way where we're just so happy where God has us right now. And to your point earlier, as far as conversations we've had leading up to this podcast and everything, we have found ways to incorporate SJ, our first son, into our life still. And he's very much alive and he's very much present and very much with us. When people ask me how many kids I have, my answer is always 2. It's not 1. It gets awkward sometimes because oh, how old are they? And I'll tell them, and then eventually it gets to the conversation, and I've even contemplated at times, do I keep doing this? But at the end of the day, he's so much a part of our lives still. I feel him every day. When we look at Jameson in our monitor, because it's black and white, he resembles his brother so much still. Yeah. There's certain positions he has that I will never forget SJ's face in my hands, and so many things have happened since SJ that have led to Jameson's story as well, that SJ's very much a part of Jameson's life, even though Jameson never met him. One of them being every time we see a beautiful sunset, we feel SJ's presence among our family. We resonate those beautiful sunsets. Every time we see a turtle, which there's a story behind it, but we see SJ and feel SJ's presence amongst our family. And every time we see a rainbow, when SJ went to be with Jesus and that moment happened, I can't really, anyone who has experienced the loss of a child and has witnessed the last breath of their child, something comes over you. And it's the most devastating feeling in the world. But there was also, I'll never forget, we both just were like, wow, because he lived a perfect life. And we got to experience what perfection actually looks like. He knew nothing else but a perfect life. And it came to fruition, and we had this moment of reflection and peace. And throughout that time, we were grieving and coming to a point where it was time to let him go. It was a really gloomy day, and the sun broke through, and a beautiful rainbow appeared out of our rainbow. A beautiful rainbow appeared out of our window. And
Both of our moms.
And our moms texted us and called us, and like, we're driving right now and we see a rainbow. All right, we see it. It's right outside our window. And so those things, just all these events have led us to just, we associate so many things with him, but it's not just that we see it and we think of him. We still feel him. He's very much a part of our family, very much a part of our lives, very much lives in our hearts. And I believe he's alive 100%. Like, it's so evident that his presence is so strong. And quite frankly, I'm jealous. He lived a perfect life and knows nothing else. And we get to celebrate that rather than continually, try to find things that have gone wrong. We try really hard to just understand that this is our story and think about all the people that it's brought into our lives and the communities we've been a part of and the relationships we've built. We can't ask for anything else. We would take him every day. That's just a human in us. If we had to give up everything to get him back, I would. But nevertheless, the story is just so prominent in our life, and I'm just so proud of him. I love him. I love being his dad. I want to talk about him all the time. I never want to forget about him because I'm so proud of him. He's always going to be my first son.
He is so lucky to have you both as his mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
And you said earlier, people say it all the time, why do bad things happen to good people? And there's a lot of things we won't ever get the answers to, but I firmly believe that part of the reason that you guys have gone through what you have gone through is because God had the faith that you would be able to deal with it and that you would be able to help so many people that need help. And he doesn't give us anything that we can't handle. I know that. I don't always want to hear that, but God is the very best at turning negatives into positives. And that's very evident in your guys' lives and the amount of people that you'll be able to help and change because of some of your trials and difficulties. And people have told us multiple times that, when we were going through some of the hardest times, they would say, I don't know how you do it, how you keep going. And I'm sure you have heard that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, we look around and, hearing your story, it's seemingly in our position, we can't imagine, that seems so much more difficult than what we've been through. And that's just a testament that we go through the things that God needs us to go through. And that doesn't make it easier, right? But that's, for me, that just gives me a little bit of comfort knowing that, one, my Father in heaven has the confidence in me to be able to handle what he puts before me, but also just being able to see other people go through difficult things as well, it just helps strengthen me so much.
I just love that you guys are just committed to, I don't think I've ever met a couple who has gone through what you've gone through, but has just been so dedicated to sharing his story. And just, I mean, I remember getting your guys' Christmas card and, FJ was on it,
Mhm.
and it's like, you just don't see that, like at least I haven't. And, it's just a blessing to see that you guys are just honoring him and you keep him alive by sharing. And one question that well, not question, but something that I would love for you guys to share is just if anyone is in your position or going through it, what is, one or two pieces of advice that you would give them if they are going through this? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think one for me would be to not be ashamed on how you grieve. We both obviously took it very, very hard, but we grieved in very different ways. And I got a lot of people telling me not to get over it, but like they would look at me and say, you need to get better. And that, and it was people, and again, not to blame them, I've worked through like their intention behind that was not bad. But in the time that it was happening, I wanted to look at him and be like, you've never lost a kid. Like, let me do this how I need to do this, and so don't be ashamed of how you grieve or that you think you grieve differently or it's the wrong way to grieve. And again, people I think do it out of love. They want to see you better than, the position that you're in. But no parent should have to bury their child. Like there's just, we're older. We're supposed to die before them. Like that, like that's how the thought process goes. And I spiraled like big time after he passed. And he was the positive one of like, yes, he grieved, but he was able to look at it in such a positive lens where I was not.
I was also in denial though.
Yeah, he had other things going on too, that the positivity covered those other things. That was how he grieved. I was very much a like, nope, I'm depressed, I'm this, I don't want to see people. Like I was on the far end of him, and it took a really long time for us to figure out how to move forward with grieving differently. And it really helped. We actually saw a counselor throughout SJ's pregnancy since we knew he was going to die.
See a counselor.
Yeah, counselors are great. We believe in counselors.
I got problems.
And she said, you guys are going to grieve differently. There's nothing wrong with that. And this is not something that you're just going to get over. This is going to stick with you. Like the hole in your heart will always be there. Like he will always be missing from the experiences we have down here. And so my piece would be to grieve how you need to grieve. However long it takes, however that looks, is how you need to do it.
Yeah, I would piggyback off that as well. I think one of the best things Ali ever did for our marriage was get us started on counseling before SJ passed away. We knew he was terminal with diagnosis and everything, and we started counseling before we had him. I think that was critical in our development as far as coping and figuring out how to do this process together. And I don't want to say I masked my grief with positivity, because I really was being optimistic. I really do try to see the good in everything, and I'm wired that way. But there got a point where I had a breaking point. I was bottling everything up because I was like, at some point, Ali's going to get through this. At some point, Ali's going to get through this. At some point, I'm going to be enough. And then after months and months and months of her just fighting this severe crisis she was fighting, I blew up. And I remember yelling at God, and I was just so frustrated. I'm like, why am I not enough for her? She still has me. How are we going to get through this marriage if the loss of SJ is more than the love she has remaining for me. You know, I took it very personally. It became a really tough part of our marriage. And my pastor Micah changed my life one night. We were over at their house, and he just sensed we need to have a talk, you know. And he's always been that person in my life where has really good recognition of those moments. And I just was honest with him. I needed a bro to support me. You know, I'm like, you know, I'm doing all of this. I'm going beyond, you know, what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm being, quite frankly, I'm being an amazing husband in this season I'm in.
He was.
Like I
He was.
I was crediting myself because I was like, what else can I possibly do to be enough for her? And he looks at me and he goes, Samson, you're never going to be enough. I was like, what? What do you, how is that what I want to hear right now? And he goes, well, you're trying to fill a void that only God can fill. You know, and that changed everything for me. You know, I was trying to be her savior complex. I was trying to be what brought her out of the darkness, and only God can do that. And that changed everything for me. And even to your point earlier, God can't give us anything that we can't handle. It's the same thing, but worded a little differently, to where maybe God does give us more than we can handle because He can handle it. You know, and it's essentially saying the same thing, but ultimately it provides that perspective of like, with God, we can handle anything. And I was a changed man that day. And that really brought perspective to our marriage, that I have to go at her pace. You know, if I'm at a faster pace, we have to be in this together. If it's her grief, it's our grief. If it's her pain, it's our pain. When you know, till death do us part, through sickness and in health, that includes grief. And I was locked in and all in after that, as far as just, you know, recognizing what I was trying to do that wasn't healthy. And what I would just recommend to people who are going through similar situations like this, to piggyback off what Ali said earlier, is do everything you possibly can to grieve together. Not to grieve the same, but to grieve together. I was not willing to grieve with Ali because I didn't like the way she was grieving. I was waiting for her. And by not being in a position to grieve together with her, that made it really hard on her. And it was hard on me. Like we both needed to do things differently to support each other. But at the end of the day, it's find your oneness in that moment. Find what makes you guys stronger rather than weaker. Because there really is no in between when you go through those things. You either break or you become stronger than ever. There's no in between. And we were breaking, but ultimately we became stronger than ever. And we're still far from perfect. Gosh, marriage is hard no matter what you're going through. But when you're going through these things, like, you know, I know I'm not easy to live with, and she's not easy to live with all the time. But that's part of what's beautiful, is that we find what works, and we're always constantly trying to find ways to support each other. And you have to grieve together, not the same, but together.
Love that.
Awesome. So Jameson was in the NICU. You guys had quite the roller coaster with him in the NICU. And I mean, he's just as much a miracle as as SJ. Is there anything specifically in that time that you want to share? Any miracles or anything?
I mean, where do we start? Everything fell into place, man. So after 40...
I know the biggest miracle was on day 10 meeting us.
I mean, best. That was a funny story in itself, too.
Best.
I'll still never forget the moment we met you guys, because, of course, my mom just right in.
Oh, love you.
Congratulations. And you're like, how did you know? I'm like, we don't know. Anyway. But yeah, around 40 days at Cadlick, we actually had to get life flighted to Spokane and spent an additional 80 days in Spokane. So 120 days in the NICU total. And every checkpoint was like, you know, 30% chance to live, 50% chance to live, 70% chance to live. Like, he just kept getting better and better and overcoming all these odds. But one thing in particular that I can't like get over is when he was an emergency need to get his open heart procedure done. Or sorry, not open heart, but his heart procedure done. The tools that they used to go to the artery to put the PDA into his heart to help with his opening there, they literally had hooks that were an S hook and a J hook.
Oh my
And it's like, we were just like, are you kidding me right now? Like, literally, his brother is freaking protecting him in his heart procedure right now. And
Yeah, the cardiologist came to us telling us how it was going to work. And on a video, he was like, this is the first one we do, and this is the second one. And I remember looking at him, and we both started tearing up, and we're like, that's his name. Like, that's his brother's name
Yeah.
in his heart.
watching the video, there's an S-shaped hook and a J-shaped hook,
Yeah.
putting the piece together in his heart. And it's like, dude, are you serious right now?
Yeah.
So that was an amazing moment for us. We met some amazing nurses at Cadlick who just became family to us. We go to Spokane, met some amazing nurses there who became family to us. Recently,
I'll tell you what.
yeah,
The nurses in the NICU, I mean nurses in general, but I mean the nurses in the NICU will always have a special place in our heart.
They're special
and
people.
They are
Yes, they are.
walking human angels for sure.
they're still constantly watching our Facebook and Instagram videos. I mean, they respond to us all the time. They're invested, like they know what they have a passion for, and they don't want to just see the baby through the NICU. They want to see the baby for life. Like they're all super invested in Jameson's life still, and it's unbelievable the family that we've built through the NICU community. Love walking around town and seeing his nurses, and they recognize us, and especially him, and like we just want to see him. Let me just carry him, you know. It's we have so many guardian angels in place now who are just looking over Jameson and looking after his well-being. And man, obviously it's a different experience than what we experienced with SJ, where we have the tragedy of SJ and we have the opposite with Jameson, where he overcame all these things. And to have the high and the low, but see the beauty in both, and to carry the beauty in both, it's powerful for us. We you know, we don't believe in God because he saved SJ. You know, we're gonna believe him even if he doesn't. But to see that come to fruition in his life, I knew Jameson's got a following, man. Like that guy is just, people love him. I'm so jealous of him. Like they love him. He can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, wherever he wants. So
Well, and it's probably because he looks more like his mom.
another miracle in the works. Allie's genes are strong.
He actually looks a lot like my dad, which Samson doesn't love.
Golf videos are so super cute.
Yeah, he's a cutie.
I'm not like freaking out or anything, but yeah, his swing's perfect already. It's unbelievable. Like,
Heck yeah.
so I'm not gonna force it, but it's gonna happen. So
Funny.
Samson, do you mind sharing one more really quick? I think it's a true angelic story from before we started recording.
oh yeah.
This is before both of the boys.
Every year we've had
Came.
something. Our marriage has come with so many things, but we had just gotten married and getting through my first tax season as a married couple, and so lots of stress in this time, you know, April. And I remember we went to a store. We were overcoming a lot of challenges in our first year of marriage. Allie moving to Pasco was a big adjustment for her. She has, you know, several cousins throughout the country. I have 80 within 10 minutes from us. And so it was a very overwhelming transition for her. So lots of emotions built up as far as just, you know, that period in that season of our life. And with Allie's medical history, she was a little dehydrated. Worst comes to shove, she went into epileptic shock while we were shopping and had a grand mal seizure that was pretty severe, and collapsed. And in this moment, you know, being extremely inexperienced with anything like this, I didn't really know what to do. And I just protected her. I knew to make sure her head wasn't hitting the ground. I was trying my best to control her body. And it was just a surreal experience for me. And people immediately came around and started helping and just recognized what was going on, called 911. I don't even know how I knew this, but I had someone start timing it, and someone was timing it for me. So all these people just came into place, and like our job was to take care of Allie. Paramedics came in right away, and started helping. And I didn't really get to process what was going on because I was just in save Allie mode. And a woman put her hand on my shoulder, and she looked at me and saw that I was in distress. She goes, "Can I just pray over you guys right now?" And I just felt this peace, and I'm just like, absolutely. And I remember just in that moment, I started crying and it just hit me. And I was overwhelmed with peace that God was going to take care of the situation no matter what it looked like. And she prayed, and I'm just keeping an eye on Allie. And as she's praying, I'm answering to the paramedics. Well, she takes her hand off me, and I kind of like go to say thank you, and she was gone. And I had this weird, just like, wow, she like left really fast. And I kind of just, it was just odd. I was like, she just jetted out of here. And
we were like in a big part of Walmart. Like there was no
Yeah.
way for her to like
I mean,
hide.
unfortunately, because of the situation, she drew a crowd. It was a whole thing because she got stretchered out and everything. But yeah, I just kind of looked around. I was like, where did she go? And we get into the ambulance. I'm still trying to, like, Allie's still not conscious at this moment, so I'm going through a lot. And then I just had this moment in the ambulance where I'm like, that was an angel. Like, that was 100% an angel that came and put their hands over us in that moment. I didn't have an opportunity to ask anyone if they saw her or anything like that. And, but I don't really know, even if it wasn't a per se like heavenly angel, even if it was an earthly angel or whatever, at the end of the day, it was such a divine moment of reflection for me to like just recognize God is looking out for us and putting people or angels in place to protect us always, whether that's your guardian angels or your spiritual angels or your earthly angels, I just, in any form, it was such a profound moment for me of my faith to just recognize God is protecting us. And man, it was crazy. Like I still to this day, I know exactly what she looks like. And I wish I can see her and say thank you if I ever had the opportunity, but it was crazy.
I think you'll get to thank her one day.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. That gave me some chills.
Story has given me chills.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
Nice.
You guys, I hope this reaches a lot of people and is able to help them on their journey. Life is really hard, and I think it gives us strength when we are able to see other people share their difficulties. And so thank you so much. We like to end every episode with asking my guests what something that you know to be true. I'd love for each of you to share your testimony a little bit, just on something small, just one thing that you know to be true.
For me, it was after SJ died. The phrase would be to run to the Father. And I say that from the experience. We gave birth to SJ in Seattle. We had to move over there for 5 months to, he saw specialists and stuff. And so we were staying at my parents' house. And after he had passed, I was in bed. I didn't get out of bed much. And I remember laying there in the dark and the words "run to the Father" just came over me. And I was one of like, not opening the Bible. I'm not praying. I'm very like anti-God. Like I'm so mad at him. Like we were in very different spots spiritually after SJ died too. And I remember laying in bed and just hearing "run to the Father." And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not what I'm going to do. But it turned out, prompted by God, I looked up the words "just run to the Father" on my phone. And a song popped up, which singing has always been a way that I relate to my faith, is through song. And so I was like, okay, I don't have to talk to God. I'll just listen to this song. It was like such a excuse in a way. And I played this song. It's from Cody Carnes. Samson actually sang it at SJ's funeral. And it's called "Run to the Father." And that song, whoever's listening, you need to look up the lyrics, because that song is the definition of the benefit and the beauty of running to the Father in any situation, not just hard stuff, but in my instance, it was grief. But it just says like, my heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. And so I run to the Father again and again and again. And I remember he left me alone a lot because I asked him to, not because he wanted to. And so I was in bed many days in a row. And that song, I probably listened to it 1,000 times. It was like the only thing getting me through the day, the night, all the minutes of the day that felt like forever. And so I think in this whole grand scheme of things, my testimony would literally be those 4 words, because that was a song I played when Jameson was in the NICU. Like, that has carried through this whole story for me. I think that would be, that moment, that testimony that I know is true, is you can run to the Father and he will handle all the things you say to him. I said some very terrible things, but he's there, and I can go to him while saying that stuff, and he's still like, hey, I love you. Like, I'm here. Like, let me have it. Let me have it.
Love that.
So that would be mine.
Yeah. I would say
Awesome.
the one thing I know to be true is that God will never fail. And I think music is just the easiest way for us to kind of just express our worship and to help explain to people what we're feeling. And a song came to me after our first miscarriage, as she mentioned earlier in the episode. In the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep. A song came over me. I went to the piano and just put the words onto the piano, and I actually was able to. That song kind of was carried with me a little bit, but didn't really come to fruition until SJ. For me, where I just, all right, that was my test. Like, I wrote these lyrics of like, I'm holding on to you. I know that you'll never fail. I'm trusting you. Like, do I believe that right now? And that just became a really prominent message for me, that I just will never believe that anything was done by accident, that God will not fail. We might not understand, but even if we don't, like, it's God has so much purpose behind what he's doing in every single situation. We're so inspired by you guys and what you're going through. And we hear things sometimes like what you said. It's like, I can't imagine what you're going through. We can't imagine what you're going through because, it's a grief and loss and journey that we can't resonate with and won't understand to your extent. And for you guys to bring life into this world in a different way, through what you have with Reese and Tegan, like it's so beautiful and so inspiring. I will never believe that we're going through a harder thing than what anyone else is going through. We all have trials and tribulations in our own way, and your trials are very hard. Our trials are very hard. And in the midst of all those things, it's not a competition of who's going through what, or we need to hear what they're going through to get perspective. No, to me, we're all going to go through some really hard things while on earth. And through those things, God will not fail. And we just need to lean into that. And that's the one thing I know to be true, is I'm never going to believe that God failed in any moment of our lives.
Amen. Well, and it's a good thing that it's not a competition, because I would win.
Oh my gosh.
We can talk about Catan later.
Yeah, I think I beat you in Catan last time, Brent.
Yeah.
For a guy who says you win all the time, you lose a lot.
Listen, I just have a short memory.
I think I've beat Brent twice now.
He hasn't won a game. He hasn't won a game.
No, he did win one last time he won.
I have a short memory.
Okay, stop. There's still people listening. Stop. Stop. Stop.
He's going to cut this whole last minute out.
Okay. No, seriously, guys, thank you so much. That was so awesome. We love you guys. And I know there's a lot of people that also love you now, also from being able to hear your story. So thank you. And you have anything else you want to say?
Nope. Just don't be surprised if people are going to be trying to find you on social media and messaging you.
Well, that's something, I mean,
we have a hashtag Samson and Ali.
This is something that usually comes from the story, is a lot of people don't know if they can reach out about it or talk to us about it, because there's a lot more like deeper elements that we could go into, but it would take a
Right.
very, very long time. But those are things that we are willing to talk about and want to talk about because a lot of people don't talk about them. And miscarriage being one of them, depression being one of them, suicide being one of them. And so we are if people do reach out, those are things that we will talk about. We believe that that's part of our story. But you'd be surprised how many people ask to reach out and then actually don't. Sure. And not that that's a bad thing. Like they're either nervous, don't want to share their story, but people will say like, oh, they want to reach out. I'm like, okay. And then you just kind of wait and you don't hear from them, which I get, isolation, feeling that's a big thing. But any of those ways are totally fine.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
You guys are the best.
Yeah,
Love you guys. Love your story. Love how God has put you guys in our lives. It's been awesome.
Thanks for joining us on Angels Among Us. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow along for more stories of everyday miracles and reminders that angels are among us. If you have a story to share, please email or DM us with a brief summary. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, when we are waiting, God is working.